This is the RIT Nerds podcast, episode number 3. Really, episode number 2, part B, with your hosts, Ron, Nathan, Chad, and Jim. This episode is a continuation of episode number 2. We had to cut our original recording into 2 parts to keep them at about an hour each. On this episode, you'll hear a roundtable discussion between the 4 of us where we discuss RIT staffing, RIT team positions, tools, and a RIT hose line. Thanks for listening, and remember, conditions drive tactics.
I don't know. We're having fun going wherever we are. I mean, I mean, problem solving is a huge part of it. I don't think you can teach that. There are just some people that just do not seem to understand that that's a square peg and that's a round hole. I don't get that. And then there's somebody that'll be there, will pull a knife out of their pocket and whittle the square peg into a round peg and just stick it in. But
Yeah.
it is a thing. I like the supervisory thing that you're talking about, Ron. That's one thing, good, bad, or indifferent. I know one thing my department's always been very good at is officers are hands off. And we are fortunate because we have manpower. We have lots of rigs showing up. If dispatch thinks there's a chance there's a fire, we got 4 heavy apparatus, which means 4 trucks with pumps, 4 person on every single pump, a battalion chief, and a standalone 3-person medic showing up within 5 minutes. And then if there's actually confirmed a fire, we've got another 10 people coming, another battalion chief, another 2 heavies. Like it's manpower heavy. So we've always had officers are nothing more than just like a tick. And they let their workers work and they can take that big picture in because we tunnel maybe in towards a task. But I would say then going back to like what James is saying though, one of the big differences between a good officer and a bad officer in my experience is if a firefighter notices something, a good officer's going to take their suggestion and build it into their plan. And a bad officer is just going to keep going with whatever they went with in the first place, no matter what anybody sees or says.
Every day.
So it's kind of good to have both. Right?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was going to say, talking about the positions, in the past year and a half, really, we've introduced team positions for the RIT team. So you have that specific job requiring you to carry that specific tool or device or, what have you. And that is really streamlined operations. Usually we get to a down firefighter, and next thing you know, there's 6 hands on the guy's face. And it's like, whoa, you all can't touch the same thing. There's only so much real estate there, So, breaking into those teams' positions and really giving them their task-oriented job has helped us tremendously in time, in energy, and in control of the environment or control of the situation. So, I don't know if you guys have adapted into that or
We've
I was just saying, it's funny, Ron said that about the million hands. My last shift before holidays here, I was doing some packaging drills with a young guy that was working with us. And I told him, I said just that. I said, it's real easy. You're just doing this on me right now. You're blacked out and it's just you packaging me. But you'll find the minute that everybody else gets involved, it becomes a cluster.
Oh, yeah.
And I will almost always tell everybody, hey, I've got the patient. I'm packaging. Hold off for a second. I'll call you over when I'm done. For that exact reason, there's so many hands start getting in there. Next thing you know, you're going for a strap you put somewhere and it's being moved. Somebody else is yanking on it, and it's just
yeah, you're loosening it and they're tightening it, and you're just killing time.
Yeah.
We started doing stuff with the RIT positions a few years ago. Honestly, I think even when I got hired, and I've been in for a little over 12 years, we were in that mindset. If you're RIT and we get deployed, you're the recon, you're the search firefighter. This person's the air pack firefighter. This person's going to be
a secondary search firefighter / the search line, bring the tagline in, and the officers, the supervisory thing. I like that, but again, as my time as I've had more time in the department, especially where I am right now, I'm a relief officer, so I float around. So I work with crews that I know, and I work with people I don't know. And on 30 minutes into the day, I have no idea what their skill sets are. So I have to do a little more micromanaging than I like to do with some crews, just because the way I explain it to them is like, look, you guys, I'm putting each one of you guys inside a box. And until I know you and we know each other and can trust each other, your box is very small, meaning you don't get a lot of leeway from me, especially if you're newer.
Right.
As we work together, that box is going to get bigger, and I'm going to allow you to do more things without me keeping a close eye on you, and I expect that you can manage yourself. With the RIT position, the way our system is set up, and Nathan, you talk about getting 4 heavies with 4 people. Our residential structure fire assignment is 4 engines, 2 ladder trucks, a heavy rescue, a medic, 2 battalion chiefs, 2 EMS supervisors, and a safety officer. And if it sounds like a working fire, meaning a second caller, or there's smoke or fire showing, or they see a header in the sky, we start a RIT task force, which brings another engine, another rescue or truck, and another medic unit. And typically it brings another safety officer and another chief that just wants to add on and come play. End up with a lot of people there very fast, which can be almost as bad as not having enough people. Our initial RIT is our 4th engine to be dispatched, or our 4th engine to arrive. So in our world, the way I tell them is we have hose packs, right? We used to call them high-rise packs, but we stopped calling them high-rise packs. We're trying to just call them hose packs so people can think that we can use them outside of high-rises. We use them every day. We use them all over the place. They're fast. It's easy to get 100 feet of hose wherever you want it, especially if you're recovering from, something changed as you're doing your 360. You got a charge line to the front door and you notice it's a basement fire. You got to walk out on side Charlie. It's very easy to deploy a hose pack back there instead of having to drag 150 feet of charged hose line back there. I only have to drag 50 feet and connect it in.
Right.
What I tell my crew at the beginning of the day, if I don't know them, is we're an engine company. When we run fires, if we're RIT, if we're 4th, bring our hose packs with us. That way we have hose. If we need it, we know where it is. It's on our shoulders. It's wherever we drop it up at the fire scene. We don't have to go looking for anything if we decide to put it in. It keeps them thinking about water. And then we bring a small set of, a set of irons. I bring the camera. We all have a flashlight, and they grab the RIT pack and maybe a search line. And then we kind of go from there. Like, hey, if we're going to take a line in, obviously you're the nozzle firefighter. I'm next to them or behind them. And the backup it's just like a normal hose line. If we're going into search, typically I leave my driver with the rig. I've been on too many fires where the 4th engine's driver comes to make up the 4th crew member of the RIT, and we end up without a secondary water supply in a case where we needed one. So my instructions to my driver for 4th is I want you ensuring that we have a secondary water supply, and help the first 3 drivers figure out any problems that they have. Just go, you're basically my RIT for water, right? Go be the senior driver and make sure that we have water for this fire. That's kind of the way I look at that. They're helping the scene by ensuring we have the one thing we can't do without, right? We need that water. So my RIT, initial RIT, we're typically operating in a crew of 3. which makes it a little easier for me actually to manage. You know, we talk about the span of control. What's that, like 3 to 7, 5 being optional, or not optional, optimal, in zero visibility. And I'm sure you guys agree, any more than trying to manage 3 people other than yourselves, and it goes to shit. Because by the time the telephone game happens and you talk to one person over here and 2 people over there, they could be in 2 different directions down a hallway, and you're never going to see either of them again because they each move fast and we're now 50 feet apart. So having, you know, if you have, I noticed like our heavy rescues, they work in a crew of 4. A lot of times they split into 2 crews of 2, and it's just easier. It's easier to manage them. They manage themselves better because they move faster. They're too slow as a 4-person crew. And now you try and do that as a RIT in a small structure where you're bringing all this stuff in. It gets cumbersome in there. You know, it gets hard. With 3, I've found that if we're bringing a hose pack, if we're bringing the RIT pack, we can do that with 3. If we're trying to move the hose, then we can do that. We can't do both. We can't move a charged hose and bring a RIT pack with us. That's just not going to happen with that crew of 3. And if we are doing it, we're going to be extremely slow. I'd rather grab another set of hands or another crew and say, hey, you're moving with us, or we're moving with you, but we're not attached to you. I don't know if that helps at all.
No.
Down the rabbit hole.
I was waiting to see if Peyton. He's frozen right now.
There he is.
There he is.
Well, we do positions as well. There you go. We do positions as well. We'll do what we call the officer position, which is typically with the company tools, kind of getting into that. We'll carry a tick and the search rope so that they lead the way into the structure, lead the way to the down member. Obviously, if a line goes in or something, the rope's not going to come. But without that, then that's what they have. And then there's tool firefighter 1, tool firefighter 2, who are kind of, you're supposed to be your good air consumption, heavy movers, the guys that clear the way, do most of the dragging, the packaging, everything else. And then the air firefighter at the back with the air unit coming up in charge of keeping that airway for the down member and supplying the airline. It's typically how it'll work. And if we drop from 4 members down to 3, then we just lose tool firefighter number 2. And then you just have officer, tick and search line, tool firefighter, and the air firefighter. And we will have a 150-foot rescue rope bag for anything that's like through the floor or anything. That tool firefighter would bring that in with them as well.
So for me, I'm basically almost kind of with you guys. We try to run 6 guys when we go on our RIT calls, you know. So that includes the driver. We try to make sure the driver of our rescue going on that RIT call is RIT certified, so they can go inside or be beneficial outside, knowing what we really want for that job, you know. But we utilize 4 positions. You know, a team leader is basically your officer. You have your extrication person, which is like entanglement, and we carry the fast board. And then we have our air guy and then a rope guy. You know, rope guy usually brings that 150 footer, so we can make it 2-to-1 or high point outside. You know, and with that 4-man setup, we usually leave 2 people outside, or are starting to now. So we have somebody that, God forbid, we need something, you know, a floor jack or something. God forbid, they could run and grab it. So we try to break it up that way. Or if we need something, you know, more air or something like that, you know, something's wrong with the RIT pack, or God forbid, you know.
Well,
but we try to travel light, you know, Halligans and rope bags in RIT bag in the fast board. You know, there's no axes really going into the building, no saws really coming into the building. You know, first of all, smoke condition chokes it out, you know, stuff like that. So besides hand lights and the tick, that's really, guys don't have much in their hands. You know, we try to make everything portable with a strap.
Yeah, we we're about the same with that. You know, if we are deploying, it's very, again, what's the basic thing that we have to do in there, and that's keep the guy alive, right? We either have to take the heat away or bring them air. And then everything after that we can work on. If they're trapped and pinned, cool, we made contact, we're sustaining life. This is the list of things I need. Start bringing them to me, and we'll start working to get them out, right? To me, the most important thing is finding and sustaining life. And that's what that initial RIT to me means. Is that's why I go back to the air pack and the hose line, especially because of that, And so let me run a scenario past you guys, right? You guys both put yourselves on a RIT crew. You've responded in. You're in the middle of, you've been on scene for about 5 minutes. You've got the equipment you need, and you hear a big crunch or whatever a floor collapse sounds like. And before you even hear the mayday, 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 you look and see you've got fire coming out of basement windows. You saw that pressurized smoke, and stuff push out of the structure. So you know something fell through. And you're like, we have fire downstairs, we have fire on the first floor, and now I'm getting a mayday that we had members fall from the first floor into the basement. As a RIT crew, what do you guys, I know what your answers are going to entail, I think, but what are some of the first things you're going to do?
Get eyes on the area. I like when I am in charge of in charge of the team. When guys do 360s, I like to send 2 guys at a time to do 360s. You get multiple eyes, whatever they're looking at. So if I could send my officer or senior man and somebody else to that area of the collapse and start getting eyes on it, and maybe even make a simple contact via voice to somebody down there, that's a big help. And then obviously radio communications directly to the rest of the team. So it's a building too. If I'm going in a raised ranch, or if I'm going in, a 3 wood, or if we're in a commercial building. So
let's say that for sake of arguments, we're in a 2-story single family dwelling with a basement.
So yeah, I would
basement at the back.
It is. Yeah, it is not. It's one of your.
Okay.
It's just you have basement windows, but you don't have a walkout anywhere around.
Yeah, I still think I would start with getting eyes on the problem and try to do verbal communication, and then deploy from there.
Cool.
Well, deploy the rest of the team from there.
Nathan, you pretty much in line with the same stuff?
You gotta have an idea where they are. Obviously, heavy fire, there's gonna be hose lines and stuff in place. Everything. Back to that old saying, conditions drive tactics. It's gonna depend where the rest of the fire ground is too. If our searches are complete and everything else, and this is now our main body of fire, then really the only priority of the job now is to put the fire out and rescue our own, because there's nothing left to do besides put the fire out and rescue our own. If you've still got searches to go on the second floor and vests and everything to happen, then that's going to change things a little bit in terms of how many resources you have. But knowing their location, if I can make a grab through one of those basement windows with some water application and they're somewhere near that basement window, and I can go down through the window and push them back up through that basement window to the outside, and that's going to be a real fast and easy way to access them. But if they're stuck in the middle of the room under that floor somewhere, well, stuff's going to come different as well. But like you say, if you've got fire coming out of every window, then water's going to need to play for sure in order to make contact.
Obviously, it's kind of a loaded question for me, because the question is driving the point I wanted to talk about, which is, is it and obviously you brought it up, Nathan. So I've thought about this one, and this is one of the reasons I like that charged hose line if we can have it. Because while a lot of other things are falling into place, in this scenario, if I see, that guy may have gone through in the Charlie quadrant, and we are looking at the alpha quadrant of the basement. But if I have fire coming out of that alpha quadrant window, I can tell my RIT firefighter right now, get water in that window. And we know that on a straight stream, get it in there and start hitting the ceiling, as best as you can. We are not going to make it any worse for them. We're going to start hopefully making it better. Maybe it won't change because we're such a distance from them. But while I'm gathering more information and really looking at how we want to deploy, I can at least start trying to make that situation a little better for them, and that's when I have people who really argue intensely about having a hose line, in the RIT cache or as RIT, that's the scenario I kind of play out to them and I even put it in as simple as this person went through in the alpha quadrant and you're looking at the alpha quadrant. You have fire through those windows. Is your RIT team prepared to make a difference right now, or are you going to try and go in and find them, but you got to call for another engine company to bring a line for you? And usually I can get people at that point to go, it probably would be a good idea to have one with us.
You got me, because my experience, I could honestly say we've only had a hand line once on all of the RIT calls we have gone on. And that's because it was a backup line just left outside. We never really go for a dedicated line.
Yeah.
And my train of thought with the question is, knowing that there's a collapse and fire has changed conditions, in certain parts of the building, that would be the IC or the operations chief to make that call to have another hose line deployed. As a RIT team, we could request that, but knowing my game plan that we almost never have that hand line, that's why I don't put it into play.
I gotcha. My dad's a firefighter, and I'm lucky enough that I'm a third generation firefighter. So all growing up, I got to ride the ding dings as a little kid, which was great. But my dad and I, we go back and forth. And just the other day we were talking, actually yesterday we were talking, he's getting ready to do some RIT training at his department this springtime. But I remember something he said to me, this is probably a couple years ago. And he's like, man, back in the 70s, before we had all this cool terminology for stuff, you just always had an extra hose line at the front door or in the front yard, charged and ready to go. It was your backup line. You could have one line operating, you'd have one line ready to go. And when that line got deployed, you would get another line ready to go. You may have 5 lines operating, but you were going to have a 6th line ready to go. So if you needed it, it was ready. When you said that to me, and in our system, because our initial RIT is an engine, I was like, when I do our math, right, and again, in our system, our math is fairly easy. We show up with 4 engines and 3 special services. If I take that 4th engine, which is a RIT, and say, don't bring a hose line, I've taken an engine company and turned them into a special service, right? Now, we say that our priority is putting the fire out, but where do we have our resources allocated to a priority? We have it over here with non-water. And then say your Mayday crew or your crew that was caught in the collapse is an engine company. 50-50 if they're still functional or not. So now we're down to 50% of our firefighting capability, but our search and rescue side is pretty good. But if we can't put the fire out because we're down, what good does it have, or what good does that extra search crew do?
Right.
And when
Good
he was when he was talking about that extra hose line, the way I look at our RIT crew right now, our 4th engine is you are the 4th backup line. You're the 4th hose line. And as a RIT task force comes in with a truck or heavy rescue, and we have a functioning RIT now. 12. We have 3, 6, 10 people in RIT at that point with your 2 engines and that. Then we have our own engine companies at that point. We are our own, basically our own task force. We can do whatever we really need to. I got a search team and I got hose lines. And that's the nice part about having that expanded RIT. And he was talking about how their county runs mutual aid with the other volunteer departments, and kind of what you're talking to, Ron, where they get special requested to be a RIT crew, and for a long time they just took their rescue. But what their whole battalion agreed on was, we don't want the rescues anymore. Bring an engine company with some RIT tools on it, because too many times they were getting caught where we have manpower, but we don't have the water. And it fluctuates for them, because a daytime response, they may be the RIT, but they may end up being the second engine on the scene because it's a daytime fire for them and they just can't turn the people over.
We've had that. We've had where we're right behind their tanker and we're helping stretch the first line in the door.
Yeah.
So we're not RIT anymore. We're actually fire attack.
Yeah.
So,
and it's so like I said, when I run into people that don't like having that charged hose line, that's the scenario I give them to see. Because for us, and I get it, every jurisdiction operates a little differently. And you have leeways or you don't, and your communication between your chiefs, it's all different. It shouldn't be that different, but sometimes it is. For us, when the chief says RIT deploy, it's 50-50 between some of them that actually have an idea of what they want you to do, and other ones that are just like, oh, this is bad, I told my RIT to deploy, they're going to solve this problem for me. And that's where I just kind of thought, like, I'm going to start using what I think is the best solution to this problem. And if they don't like it, then I'll get in trouble and we'll deal with that, later. And I'd rather act a little aggressive than be too timid and
deal with the weight on your shoulders later.
Yeah.
I totally get it. It's like they say, soften the building. I'm like, well, we're doing more damage. I don't care.
Yeah.
The door, really. Like, what's the insurance company? The insurance company's not going to call up my chief and be like, why'd you take all 3 doors on the Charlie side?
Yeah.
Like, you're being proactive in a way that's beneficial for everybody. As long as you're doing it right. So, through the lock. I got to carry my Rex tool now, right?
I just saw that pop up.
Great officer tool.
What's
the old tool? Well, I want to go back to one thing you hit on earlier is those team positions. And, what you said to your guys at the beginning of the shift is, you're going to work in this box because I could trust you in this box. Having these drills and collecting the data as an officer or a senior man is putting the people in those positions, whether it's air, extrication, rope, that people are good in those positions, that they're comfortable, that their skill set lets them evolve the evolution. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think setting the team up for success starts like on the way to the call.
For sure. Yeah. Like you said, set them up for success. If they're not good at a certain skill set, then we have time to train on that, but it might not be on the fire call. That might not be the best time. Now, it is always good training. Fires is the best training you can have. But
absolutely,
you have to weigh that in mind. Like, am I setting us up to have a difficult time because I want this person to get some type of experience, or can I replicate this experience at the firehouse or at the academy? And as Grossman says, create a pre-combat veteran,
right?
By making some difficult training environments and running them through the paces. And that's where I see generally as a fire service we can do more, which is train a little bit harder.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that when I tell them that, it's typically like I'll have a rookie, a red shield, and be like, "Look, man, I expect by the time I get back from my 360 that the front door is open and controlled. If it's someone that I've worked with for a while, but like I expect that you've opened the door, you've done a quick 6-foot search, and you've controlled it down on yourself. But I know that 6 feet is critical to search as fast as we can because of our victim surveys and the victim where we find them. But at the same time, if I've met this person for the first time this morning and they're a probie and I know nothing about them, I can't ask them to do that with me on the opposite side of the structure.
Right.
I'm going to do everything. I'm going to work as hard as I can to get back as fast as I can without sacrificing the things I need to do on a lap. If the backup firefighter and them are working together, then I trust the backup firefighter because I've known them more than the nozzle firefighter. Then okay, you guys work together. But I can't put somebody in that situation where I come back and they're gone and I have no idea where they went, and it looks like, oh, they went into the building. Oh, great. Now we got to go play catch up. They didn't even take a line with them because they heard me say that searching the first 6 feet is important. So they left the line outside and took nothing in. That just sets us all up for bad things.
Yeah. Nathan, you with us?
I'm with you. I just had my cup of tea.
Was it that white Jacko tea?
No, man. Tetley's. Orange Pico. It's the only way to go.
The Jacko tea's pretty good.
Yeah, I haven't had it. Is it pretty good?
It's good, man. I like it. Actually, I'm going to see Jocko tomorrow night.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he's doing, but he's playing some theaters live. It's like a 2-hour live, not conversation, but he's talking for 2 hours, and he's in DC at the Warner Theater tomorrow night. So a buddy of mine are going down and see what it's all about. And it's only like $80 or $90 for the ticket, and you get a copy of his new book when you get there.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, this is a great deal because the muster.
I'm actually going with
$200 or something.
Yeah, I'm going with Nick Esposito to Jacko coming up sometime soon.
Are you?
On the 16th. I don't know where we're going.
I was probably the same thing.
$75.
All right.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it can be bad.
Well, we kind of went all over the place. We talked about hose lines already.
Yeah.
The other ones we were talking about was tools, but we kind of already went through all that as well. We were talking about personal tools, company tools. One thing we talked about, so we talked about personal tools, sort of what's on your person, being important for RIT. We all kind of talked about that already. Just the fact that you're more likely to be RIT in inverted commas when you're not assigned to RIT. So being able to do those functions with your tools you have on you every day is huge. We talked about the company tools, what we carry with our positions, everything like that. Now, one thing about that, so when we talk about those company tools, your search lines and stuff like that, when do you assemble those tools, and where do you put them, and what do you do with them? So like for us, that's that search rope, the rescue rope, the air unit, the iron, the tick. The minute you're assigned RIT, you get them, and that's it. And then, like I said before, those are on you forever. No matter what you're doing, you're carrying that stuff around, so you can deploy with it at any point in time from any part of the fireground. And then when it comes to the almighty tool tarp, we'll only leave what we would call specialty tools on that. So we collect our specialty tools after our 360. So after we've done our 360, we've had a good look at the fire and the building type. We determine anything we might need above and beyond our company tools we already have on us, and those we'll assemble to the tarp. So whatever those might be. One of my favorite things I like to see on there is just a attic ladder, scissor ladder, 10-footer. It can sure make the 42% of Maydays with fawns for the roof and fawns for the floors real simple if the guy's okay to just have that attic ladder. But yeah, and then that for us would come into play with that RIT dedicated hose line comes out when you're doing those specialty tools as well to be positioned. We mark it with just Velcro strap that says RIT on it, goes on the bail, and then another one at the engine itself, just marked so nobody knows to touch that line because it's dedicated for that. So all of the lines needed get pulled from the truck. Nobody can just take that one and go.
Not a bad idea. For us, we have a RIT specific compartment. The only thing that's not in that compartment is our Stokes basket and our saw, or saws, I should say. Everything else is there. Fastboard, RIT pack, your search rope, your our 2-to-1 rope, and then usually we'll strip ladders from other rigs that are on scene, and we try to get one ladder on each side of the building. But I do like adding in the folding ladder. That's a home run idea. That really hasn't come into much play for us. So, and I mean, you guys could hate me for it, but throw that damn tarp out the window. I hate the thing. You guys are like, don't forget the tarp. I'm like, all right, how about you turn your SCBA bottle on first, and then we'll worry about the tarp. And honestly, what we use the tarp for. What's that?
I agree wholeheartedly.
What we use the tarp up here for in New England, unlike Canada, we have snow, and we cover the RIT stuff with the tarp.
I like that.
Fair enough.
So we don't have tarps. So the RIT tarp we never really adopted, but our RIT equipment is carried on our special services, and there is a RIT compartment with a nice little green Maltese on the outside. Our previous version of RIT pack, just a short rabbit hole, was one that Fairfax County designed. It was not a Scott RIT pack, and it was great. It was light. It was easy to move. When we upgraded to the new air packs 3 years ago, we just went wholesale and went with the RIT Pack 3. And since then, Scott's come out with the Fast Pack, the Fast Attack.
Oh, yeah.
That's great. I really wish we could go to that, but right now we're just trying to turn the big ship, and we already have the RIT Pack 3, so they're not going anywhere for a while.
The same boat.
But in there, so we have the RIT Pack 3. We have a search line with a couple taglines on it, so that the engine company that shows up as a RIT has a search line. They're capable of using it. They're not scrounging for equipment. And it has the pack tracker in there, which we won't even talk about that today.
I was gonna say.
No,
we've got a pack tracker.
Wasted time.
Whole another conversation. Yeah.
I think short answer is it's nice to have, but we don't use it very much.
It's like the hot stick. Do you trust it?
I don't trust it.
It reminds me of that game you used to play as a kid where your parents would hide something and they'd tell you were hotter or colder.
Yeah, pretty much.
Getting warmer. Getting warmer. Colder.
You're completely going the wrong direction.
Yep.
All the saws and stuff are just truck company or rescue company saws, and that's why our RIT task force response now comes with a truck or heavy rescue, because they're bringing some of their own saws with us, so we're not stealing them from the trucks that are actually trying to do work with theirs.
Right.
But fortunately, our trucks and rescues, typically their minimum is 2 chainsaws, 2 rotary saws. So on the first alarm, you're ending up with 6 chainsaws and 6 rotary saws between the first alarm. So you typically can find somebody's chainsaw that's not being used. And then we gather that. But like I was saying, if I'm on the initial RIT, if I'm on the engine company, as we're walking up, I got my firefighters are bringing the hose packs. When they get there, they know that the first 2 things that they are doing while I go talk with command is they are grabbing the RIT air pack, the RIT pack 3 from one of the special services. And then their next step is to find an engine company, talk with the driver, and either deploy one of their hose lines or by asking them, do you have water to supply a RIT line? If they don't, the first engine typically doesn't, they got 3 lines off already. That's not a good choice. If the next engine that's closest by only has 1 line off, that's where they'll go to. But they know to go talk with the driver, make sure that they can actually supply it, and then get it in service. If we don't have to use our hose packs, we don't, because it then leaves us the ability to be fluid and move rapidly to the other side of the structure with that line if we need to. And then from there, basically while they're doing that, I've talked with command, let them know where we're going to be. And they give me some, they fill you in on some other information, let you see where people may be operating that you've missed. I take a lap, go back, and then the 2 firefighters at that point take a lap. And then from there, we will probably go grab a chainsaw. That's about the only extra piece of equipment I ask them to grab at that point. Everything else, again, if we get deployed, I know that there's a RIT task force that's close by. They're either en route or they're on scene and walking up, or they're with us. So the way I view my function as that initial company is to stop the bleeding, either take the heat away or get the air to them. And then if they're trapped, we have more people outside that I can communicate with, let them know what we really need in here, and have them start moving our direction.
I like it.
Yeah. I a little quick side tangent. I only got to play with that Scott Fast Pack in conference hall in Pensacola Beach when I was down there 2 years ago now. Have you guys got to actually use it at all or play with it?
The Fast Pack, yeah. Actually, Scott had a Fast Pack out before the RIT Pack 3 came out. With the RIT Pack 2, the blue bag one,
Yeah.
there was a smaller version of that blue bag one with a long regulator hose.
Okay.
And it was compact, 30-minute bottle. The thing was light, it was maneuverable, and it had 1 pouch, so you knew what you were going after.
Yeah.
But I saw those up in Harrisburg, and I played with them for a few minutes, and they're so much lighter, so much maneuverable.
So better, so much better.
Yeah. I've
Well,
talked
they
to.
can go down small as. Sorry.
What's that?
I was saying those fast packs can go down to a 15-minute bottle if you want.
Right. Yeah, as long
Yeah.
as you specify it, which is kind of cool. You know what I mean? Like, you really could adapt it to what you need.
Yeah.
Talking to Gary Lane a little bit about the RIT Pack 3, just even taking out where the mask is, like, if you cut one of those walls out, be a little more room to work in there, it would just make that pack just a little bit better. But I mean, 44 pounds, it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Again, it's funny. So before we bought the RIT Pack 3, I remember being in Harrisburg and Scott was there demoing it at their booth. And my dad was talking to him and he asked him, like, hey, so how do I get the bottle out of here? And they're like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, I find my guy. I want to hook him up and move, but I don't want to take this whole damn thing with us. How do you do that? And they're like, well, you can't. And he's like, well, that's a joke. And he took him down. He put him through the ringer a little bit. And that was the first time I saw a large company like Scott, where you really see how rigid they are with our customers. Since then, I've seen it a lot with a couple different manufacturers, two of them with air, where they really don't listen to the end users. They just, this is what we have, this is what you can buy, and that's it. Like, how about this? I like this idea. Like, no, we don't do that. Okay.
I just want to put this example out there.
I
Look at Elkhart Pass. They listen to their end users, and look at where their game is at right now.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
If people aren't picking up what they're putting on as a business idea, then sell your business.
You think about them 10 years ago. Where were they? They were falling way behind Task Force Tips and Akron, and now they stopped trying to sell their equipment and started talking to their users and starting putting information out there. And that the whole was the brass tacks, hard facts thing. By getting end user buy-in, those guys are selling the shit out of cart brass. And if you have a product, then if you have a product, then the marketing is only helping you expose it. It's gonna sell, right? It's not like you're trying to sell garbage. They're selling good product.
But it's not even their marketing. They're producing a better product because of what they're getting.
True. Yeah.
So, and it drives me nuts because we spec out apparatus. We buy fire gear such as RIT packs. Oh, this has to be here or this has to be there. Well, are you the one that's getting off the truck and using it?
Yeah.
Like, that's what really drives me nuts. I try to say as much as I can. And the end user matters more than anything, because I'd rather have a ladder come out of a ladder truck vertical than flat. And, but I have a chief that has 30 years on saying, well, they're going to go out flat. Well, chief, I'm sorry, but you're not one taking the 28, 35, or even the 24 out by yourself. So what do you want? And it's just amazing that we have such a wide variety of equipment, and yet we're still focused on, this is the way we say it is. Like you said, they're so rigid, they can't see past what they really need or, what could be beneficial to them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's frustrating as an end user, but yeah.
Oh, it's absolutely frustrating.
I had a question for you guys, but I can't remember what it is now. I don't know. If you guys start talking about something else, maybe I'll think about it.
So
what's freaking crazy? I'm sitting at the gym this morning. My wife and I are there, and she's in one of her classes, and I'm on the floor, and I look up, right, and it's Sunday morning. So what's on the TVs at the gym? It's ESPN, and they're going over the games from last night. I'm like, could you imagine if we spend as much time focusing and reviewing the things that we did on the fire ground and training ground as we spend, like, our individuals, our firefighters spend more time watching ESPN talk about a football game from last night than they want to spend watching themselves perform to get better.
Right.
If we spent that time and effort trying to make ourselves better, imagine the fire departments we would all work in, or all ride in, or be a part of.
Prime thing on top of that. So I was at work one day, and something came up, and I gave them the numbers and stuff, and I think I referenced an NFPA or something. It might have been talking about nozzles because of, anyways, getting in department politics, but I referenced 1710, and they're like, you and your numbers, blah, blah, blah. It's so ridiculous. You know all those stats. It's so useless, blah, blah, blah. This is at morning coffee there, right at rig checks. So transpire now to lunchtime, and we're sat down, we're having lunch, and hockey game's on, and the same guy proceeds to tell me the height, weight, and goals scored of this person. What team they used to be on, how many assists they have. And I was like, whoa. Okay, you're borderline a stalker at this point. To know that much about a stranger is enough for them to get a restraining order on you. But me knowing what is the industry standard for flow on our lines is a bad thing.
Right.
It's crazy.
But yeah,
I've kind of ran into some same situation. Our RIT class is 3 days long, and the last class is on a Sunday usually the way it falls, and they're like, yeah, well, we could get home for the football game. Yeah, no, you're here till 4 o'clock.
Yep.
I got you. Like, sorry, dude. Like, this isn't a class that you could skip out on. Even if you did backflips across the floor and pull the guy out with your finger, you're still not going 4 o'clock. The best part is it doesn't change from fire department to fire department.
no, yeah,
It's the same thing. So
Same clown,
Yep.
different circus.
true,
yeah.
true. Well,
All right, fellas.
is there anything else you guys want to hit on real quick, or is it we at our time limit here?
Well, I'm gonna hit
It's only
the
7:30 for
so.
me. It's a lot later.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you for listening to the RIT Nerds podcast, brought to you by RIT Ops, Prepare for Rescue, and Adapt and Overcome Training. Stay tuned for more episodes to pop up as we're planning on dropping 1 to 2 new episodes every month. If you'd like to support this podcast, please join the RIT Nerds group on Facebook and like and follow the individual pages listed above.